Hello everyone. If you're watching this video, it means that you're at the very end of our data analysis with Power BI course and you're about to finish your final project. In this video, I'm going to give you a solution to the task you've been given. So it was to analyze this data, which you see on my screen. You also had to find some useful insights from it and do some data transformation and visualization using the Power BI only. Now, this video will be finding the business focused insights and doing the data transformation. And in the next video, we'll be building the visualizations. So without further ado, let's jump into it. So first of all, we need to take a look at the data that we have here. So it seems like it's sales data. So we have full name column here. So it's probably names of our customers. Here we have quantity ordered column, but here we can see that something interesting is going on. Now you can see the quantity, but it also says the product type. So they were selling headphones, keyboard, mouse, case, laptop, and yeah, and a cleaner. I see here. Maybe there will be something more. But yeah, uh, in Power BI, we'll need to separate this column into two because it says just quantity ordered, and we would probably need to separate it into two columns, saying quantity ordered and also the product type. Here we have the price unit, uh, price per unit, sorry. So we have the price for the headphones and price for the keyboard. They're all the same. Okay, good. Then we have the dates and the branch. So it's probably the branch of the company. So as we can see, they have the branches in London, in Tokyo, in Berlin, New York. Yeah, I think that's it. So yeah, now from this data, we can already tell what kind of insights we'll be looking for. We'll probably need to count the whole sales amount, the revenue. Also, we'll see. It will be useful to find out in which month we were selling the most. It's also going to be useful to find out which branch performed the best, whether it was London, Tokyo, Berlin, New York. And well, while we'll be doing this all, I believe that we'll get even more insights and we'll figure out what to do next. So now what's important is to write down the insight that we'll be taking out from this data. So let me open a Word file and we'll write it down here. Now, as I said, we'll be introducing a new column and we'll probably call it sales. So in this column, we'll just multiply the quantity ordered by the price per unit, and that would give us the revenue or the sales generated by one customer. So let me just write it down. Sales column. Also, we'll be defining the best month, the top selling month. So basically the month when we sold the biggest number of the product that we're selling. And also we'll have the top selling branch. So the branch, the office of the company that performed the best throughout the year. And we'll also take a look at the customers, if there are any recurring customers, because if there is one or maybe more, then we can also find out the top customer. That's also a useful insight for the salespeople. It means that they're loyal customers and they're buying and they will probably keep on buying more. So it's also useful to see that. Also, as you can see, we have a couple of product types here. So the headphones, keyboard, mouse, and so on. Now, let's write it down as top selling product type. Okay. So this is all I can see from now. And maybe after we'll start doing the data transformation, we'll be able to find even more insights from it. So now we're finally done with Excel. We're not going to do anything in Excel. We're going to do the whole project in Power BI only. So now we need to import this data into Power BI. Okay, so here we are at the Power BI platform, and we need to load our data. So if you look at the upper ribbon here, you can see the get button, get data button, and here are quite some options. And actually, there are way more of them. I'm not gonna talk about all of them. We're just gonna use the text slash CSV format here. But yeah, as you might already know, there are many options. You can get the data from the GitHub, and you can connect it to your database. So you can also connect it to SQL, MySQL. Well, there are many options. Our data is saved in the CSV format. It's quick, doesn't take that much of memory. So we're going to connect our CSV to our Power BI. So from here, we need to choose the sales data that we'll be working with. And now it will take its time to actually connect it. So here we are. It's already here. And now if the data would be already perfect, and if you wouldn't have to do anything with it, then you would just hit load. But we are going to perform more of our data transformation on Power BI in the Power Query. That's why we're going to hit this transform data button. So now as we can see that the Power BI Power Query editor is opening. So here you can see the column where you can write your DAX code. And here is our data, just like in Excel file. Nothing's changed, everything stays the same. Now, in my case, and in most of the cases, some of these operations that you can see on this side, on the right side, they will be done automatically. Now, Power BI does it itself. So what does it basically do? It loads your data. It recognizes the type of the data. So for example, here you have the ABC thing. So it's just plain text. This one as well. Even though we have some numbers here, it recognizes it just as text. Here we have the price per unit, and it recognizes it as numbers, date, and again, just the plain text. So everything looks good. Now, in your case, if it didn't work out automatically, then you can just hit this ABC button or this calendar button, and you can change it to whatever you want. In my case, everything works perfectly, so we'll just work with it. And another thing that Power BI did automatically is promoted the headers. So what does it mean? It means that it recognized the first row as the headers, not as a part of our data, but just as the headers. Now, if it didn't do it automatically, Then you need to go to the upper ribbon here and find the use first row as headers. So you would hit that. So you have two options here: use first row as headers or use headers as first row. Now, in my case, it worked out perfectly, so we'll just keep on working with it. So now, first things first, let's take a look. All right, so we wanted to separate this single column into two because we want to have the number, the quantity ordered separately, and the product type separately. So we're gonna choose this column, and in this upper ribbon, you'll see many buttons that are everywhere. So there are like similar or same buttons everywhere in transform or add column, but it's important to do it on transform because we are trying to transform a data here. So we're going to split this column, and we want to split it. So you have some options. We want to split it by a delimiter. Now, in our case, the delimiter will be space. Okay. So here you have some options. Now, in our case, it's space, and again, it will ask you whether you want to split that leftmost delimiter, rightmost delimiter, or each occurrence of delimiter. Now, since we have just one space in between the number and the word, we can click that, but it would be better if we would just get leftmost delimiter in this case. And we do not want any quote character, so we're just gonna hit OK. And here we go. So we have this quantity ordered 0.1 column and quantity ordered 0.2 column. Now, we actually want to rename it. So just double click on it and you'll be able to rename it. So we're going to name it as product type. Go. And yeah, by the way, all of the changes are being recorded here. So if you want to undo any of them, you can just hit the X. And if you want to just view the previous changes, you can just go around it. So everything looks good now. We have the quantity ordered, and we have the product type in a separate column. Now, the next thing that we want to do is we want to take a look at this customers. So it's not quite readable, and I don't like that it's all uppercase. It actually slows down your reading. And I just want to change it. No, it's just up to me. So I'm just gonna hit format. And here you have some options. So you have lowercase, you could change it all to lowercase with the name and surname. So it has to have the first capital letter. So we're gonna hit capitalize each word. Done. So now, as you can see, Robert Johnson, we don't have it all uppercase. We have just the R and the J in uppercase. So it looks good. Now, we also wanted to see if there are some names and surnames reoccurring here. And so if there are, then it would basically mean that some of the customers purchased more than once, and it would be useful for our, let's take a look, to determine the top buying customer. So there are different ways how you can do it. Now, it seems to be the easiest one. So you could just hit this button, and here it would show you all of the distinct values. And you could just go through it and see if but yeah, it would take a lot of time and it's manual work and we don't want to do that. Yeah. Now, in order to find out if there are any recurring names and surnames, we would need to go back to our transform section. And here we would need to hit the statistics button and count distinct values. Now, to quickly explain you what this will do. Now, as in this SQL, when you write down that count distinct values query, it will give you in this particular case, it would give you all of the distinct name and surname combinations. So in our case, it's just one single customer. Now, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna select this column. It's statistics, count distinct values, and it gives us 362. So basically, there are 362 different customers. Now let's undo this change and see how many rows are there. Now it said that there are 362 rows. So what it basically means, it means that there are 362 different customers and none of the name and surname combination is recurring. So very well. Okay, so we don't have any recurring customers. So seems like all of our customers are just purchasing once and leaving. Not a very good thing for business, but whatever. So now we've done this, and now let's see what's our next step. So we also wanted to introduce the new sales column, top selling months, branch, customer, and product type. Okay, we're gonna start with introducing the introduction of the new sales column. Now, as I said before, we're basically going to multiply the quantity ordered by price per unit, and then we're gonna get the whole amount for the sales per each customer. Now, in order to do that, we're going to change from the transform to add a column because we're adding a new column here. And here you have this standard button. And as I said, we want to multiply it. Now here you can see that we can type in whatever number we want. And it would multiply it by that number, but it wouldn't work in our case because every time there is a different price for each type of product. So we don't want to do that. In which case it would be needed to use it. For example, if we're trying to, like, for example, if we have the price in USD and we want to change it to euros. So in this case, throughout the year, we would take just one average currency and we would multiply it by that. But this is not our case. So that's why we're gonna choose this and use values in a column. This is what we want to do. In this selection, normally it would give you more of the values, but since we don't have any other numbers here, number columns, we only have the date one. So that's why it's giving us the only price per unit option. And that's exactly what we want. So we're going to choose that and hit OK. So as you can see, here is the desired column. So what it basically did is multiplied 6 by 29 point something. Yeah, by the way, it doesn't really look good. I just noticed it. So we don't want to look at our data with all these ones. There are many of them. We just want to look at the 2 decimals. Now, so we would actually first need to change that, and only then we would introduce the sales column. Now, in order to do that, we would need to go back to transform, and here we want to round it. We want to round it. Here it is, rounding. Now we want to round it up. No. Yeah, we want to choose decimal places. So we want 2 decimal places, as I said. So here it goes. Oh, we have to undo it, of course. So let's try it again. Around, and we want 2 decimal places. So here it goes. This is exactly what we wanted. Now we just have 29.91. We don't need that these many numbers behind it, okay? So now we're good to go. Now we can go back to add a column, standard, multiply, and we're going to choose use values in column, price per unit, hit OK, and here we go. That's exactly what we need without all of these decimals that are behind the 46 in this case. So the last thing that we want to do with this column is we're just going to rename it as sales. Done. So this step is also done. Good. Now let's just quickly take a look at what else we would need to do. Now everything seems pretty good, but I don't like how the date looks. So I actually don't need this time. And since we already said that we are going to look at the top selling months only, we don't really care about the dates, right? And the year, everything seems to be just 2021. So we don't need that one as well. So what we need to do, we need to delete the time, day, and the year. And we just need to be left with the month name. So in order to do that, we want to go back to transform, because if we would be doing it in add column, it would just create a new column with the month name. And we don't want to do that. We just want to replace this column with the month name. That's where we're going to hit transform. And here you have the date button. And here you can actually choose whether you want to divide it by year, month, quarter, week, day, and so on. Now we want to divide it by month. Now, if I would click this month button, it would give me the month in the numbers. One for January, 2 for February, and so on. It won't look too good. So that's why I suggest choosing name of month. Let's see what it will do. Okay, perfect. So here we go. Now we have the month as their names, not as numbers, and it actually looks much better. And we don't have that time and day. We do not need that in our case. So this part is also done. Now, I believe that this is it. There is nothing more that we need to do in the transformation. Yeah, everything looks good. So after this, we would just need to save it all and start building our visualization. So as I said, we'll be building our visualizations in the next video. And let's just do a small recap to summarize what we have done today. So the most important thing is that we build our insights. We figured out what are the most important insights that we want to present to the management. We transformed our data, and the only thing that is left is to actually visualize the data, visualize the insights, and build the Power BI report. So I'll see you in my next video, and goodbye for now.